The 2022 NBA Draft is coming your way on Thursday, and we will be broadcasting it live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. You see the link down below. If you haven't already subscribed, we eclipsed 300,000 subscribers throughout the NBA Finals. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. And with that, I want to ask you this. Will you be joining us? Will you be hanging out with myself and Harrison Graham as we talk about every single selection throughout the 2 rounds? Give me an H for hell yeah. Give me an L for I'm lame. I hope everybody's typing an H, because if you're lame and lackluster and not tuning in to what could be and what probably will be the most watched NBA draft coverage on YouTube, then you're missing out. So join us and we'll see you on Thursday. But for now, let's chop it up and talk some Lakers basketball. This is the Los Angeles Lakers Report by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Senior. Hope all of your weeks are off to a fantastic start. We have another phenomenal show on tap for you today as we dive into all of the latest and juiciest Lakers news and rumors. There's so much going down with this basketball team, as there could be monster movement on this roster. We already saw a new head coach hired, and could the roster undergo some changes? We're talking about some of that on today's show. And we start off with Russell Westbrook. Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer confirming that the Charlotte Hornets have, quote, real interest in acquiring Russ. Now, why would they want him? Russell Westbrook's still a pretty solid player. O'Connor made the argument you can play him alongside LaMelo Ball. That's a team that's trying to get past that threshold of going from being an NBA bubble team to an NBA playoff team. And lastly, he's a Jordan Brand athlete. Michael Jordan, MJ the GOAT, the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. So KOC with this on The Ringer, saying the Russell Westbrook interest that Mark Stein had reported months back is real with Charlotte. Though Westbrook makes little sense as a player next to Ball, he does have an expiring contract, and the Hornets would be dropping the bag for restricted free agent Miles Bridges, plus LaMelo Ball's extension is right around the corner. It's a good time to move some other long-term salary like Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier for an expiring deal in Russell Westbrook. Now, KOC doesn't think it's a good fit. I actually think it can be a fit, because Russell Westbrook can certainly do some damage, and there can be some pathways opened up on the offensive end of the floor, playing alongside LaMelo and some of the other shooters on that roster, for Russ to get to the rack and make some noise. And he, too, could also help LaMelo Ball. So I disagree with KOC with what he said there about the fit between LaMelo and Russ. From a salary standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is the final year of Russell Westbrook's contract. So we cooked up this potential Lakers-Charlotte trade. Here it is. Terry Rozier going to the Lakers, as well as Gordon Hayward. And with that, I think the Lakers roster with Rozier as well as Gordon Hayward makes a lot more sense. And then Russell Westbrook would be sent to the Charlotte Hornets. You get rid of that monster salary, and you get rid of a player who was maddening to watch last year in the purple and gold. Whatever the Lakers have to do to get rid of Russell Westbrook, whether it be a 2-team trade, a 3-team blockbuster trade, you have to try to move off of him, because he's not the player that he once was. The numbers are declining. I'm not sure that the locker room continuity and camaraderie was as good as it could have been with him on the team last year. He looked to be really frustrated with the stylistic fit on the Lakers' offensive aspect on that end of the floor. And look, here's the reality with Russ. Given everything that I just said, the interest in him is going to be limited. So if you can find a trade partner like Charlotte to take on that contract and the player of Westbrook, you have to find a way to get that deal done to try to get the Lakers back on track to winning contention. So I basically said everything I needed to say about that potential trade. And before we get to Kyrie Irving, I want to hear from you once more in the comment section right now. Would you make this trade on your screen right now? Type T for trade, P for pass. I'm fascinated to see where you all stand on this. Another guy who a lot of people are standing this way on and that way on is Kyrie Irving. Bleacher Report's Jake Fischer cooled some Kyrie rumors. Brian Windhorst also talked about the chances that Kyrie goes to the Lakers on his podcast. We're going to cover it all over the next couple of minutes. Here, as of now, are the teams linked to Kyrie Irving. First, there was a report from Shams, then Jake Fischer, Brian Windhorst. We're looking at teams like the New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. So 2 teams in LA could be vying for the services of Kyrie. As for what Jake Fischer had to say about this fascinating superstar in Kyrie, who sometimes is mercurial, both sides appear keen on holding on ongoing conversations about building together in Brooklyn, where the Nets can return to the championship contending aspirations they held entering this past campaign. Since their exit from the playoffs, Brooklyn officials have been working under the assumption that Irving, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons will return to Brooklyn next year. Word of Irving's interest in the Lakers and New York Knicks has circulated among league personnel since the NBA draft combine in mid-May, but few team executives have given much credence to that chatter. But if you think about it, if Kyrie wants out, him teaming back up with LeBron James, who he admitted Kyrie did, that he messed up the Cleveland experiment, it could work at the end of the day. So whether Kyrie gets traded, whether he signs with the Lakers, if the Lakers make any moves throughout this really pivotal and important offseason, you know who has you covered? Me, myself, Harrison Graham, everybody here at Chat Sports, executive producer Sam Brown, the Lakers Report has you covered. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. Therefore, anytime we publish a video, anytime we do go live, anytime there's a show out there with a juicy news or rumors item or anything that we decide to cook up for Laker Nation, you will be notified. Now, a sign and trade for Kyrie between the Lakers and the Nets would cause some financial distress for LA. It would trigger the Lakers' hard salary cap, and that's probably not an option. Although we know that Jeanie Buss is desperate to win, to bring back a championship, and we know that LeBron is looking at Steph Curry right now, and they're like, yo, we both have 4 rings. I need another to get up on the pedestal on Steph Curry for the best player of this generation, because that, folks, is becoming more and more of a realistic conversation. I don't care if we go into the hard salary cap or the luxury tax, bring in Kyrie. As for what Brian Windhorst had to say about the Nets trading him, they have Kevin Durant on their team, Windy said. Kevin Durant expects to compete for championships, so if the core of what you think you're trading to the Nets is future draft picks, I'm not sure that's going to get it done. I'm saying that mostly for the folks who are like, oh, trade Russell Westbrook and 2 first-round picks. Well, it does work in the trade machine, I'll give you that. A lot of people playing GM. But Russell Westbrook doesn't help the Nets, and the 2 first-round picks might be nice in 3 years, but they don't have much value now. Now, if the Lakers want to deal Russ and get Kyrie, the most likely path is through a 3-team trade. I don't think you can convince Kevin Durant, hey, we're going to trade away Kyrie Irving, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring back the player who you left in OKC to go to the Bay Area with the Golden State Warriors, and we're going to bring him back to see if it can happen again after the experiment had ultimately failed. And the last time you two played together, you blew a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors. So whatever happens, my goodness, we have you covered, and I'm kind of hoping that Kyrie can make his way from Brooklyn to LA to team back up with LeBron James, because from an on-court pairing perspective, I do think it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I'd rather see LeBron and Kyrie than LeBron and Anthony Davis. Kyrie isn't available not because of injuries as much as Anthony Davis is. It's just because he's a little bit wonky and a little bit weird at times. So Kyrie coming back to Los Angeles to team up with LeBron James would be really, really interesting, not just for the channel, not for just the Lakers, but also for the conversations going on around the NBA. So what do you think is going to happen? Will the Lakers acquire Kyrie? Y for yes, N for no. I am fielding all of your responses in the comment section right now. Now, there is technically one more option that could happen to bring in Kyrie to maybe make a deal work. What is that one more option? Here you go. Brian Windhorst with this. The only trade that I think makes sense that the Nets, I think, would do with the Lakers would be for Anthony Davis. Let me just say that I have investigated that, and I do not see that trade happening. Let me ask you this question, though, for all of you rocking and rolling with us on the Lakers Report. And by the way, appreciate all of you for making today's show part of your day. Who fits better next to LeBron James? Is it Anthony Davis? Is it Kyrie Irving? Now, I thought what David Fizdale had to say the other day about the Lakers having some of the most open three-point looks was really interesting. They didn't knock them down, but they had those open looks. You know who's pretty good at shooting the 3 ball, who's coming off his career best in terms of knocking down shots from beyond the arc? It's Kyrie Irving. You know who had a career worst year shooting the ball from distance with volume? Anthony Davis, sub 20%. So that's why I think that Kyrie could fit better with LeBron James than Anthony Davis, and I don't have the injury concerns with Kyrie right now that I have for AD. Now you look at their stats next to LeBron. Both really good numbers, both impactful players. AD is a better two-way player. There's no question about that. But what good is Anthony Davis if he can't stay on the floor? Because the last 2 years, he hasn't been able to do that. Bubble season, he was great. Lakers lucked out. They get some rest. Brittle Anthony Davis, able to recharge after a couple of months off, and he was honestly looking like one of the best players in the world in the NBA bubble. Problem is, last 2 years, he's been off injured. Now, Kyrie's dealt with his fair share of injuries as well throughout his career, but I don't have those same concerns with him that I do for AD. Either way, though, both have put up big numbers aside from LeBron James. Kyrie, 22 points per game, about a 46% shooter. You're good, Sam. Really good from shooting the ball from beyond the arc. And Anthony Davis, a two-way player who does have three-way aspects to his game in terms of scoring from all three levels. But again, it's the availability that concerns me with LeBron James turning 38 in December. Who would you rather have? Arguably the biggest question on today's show, and I want to hear what all of you have to say with this poll question. AD for Anthony Davis, KI for Kyrie Irving. Who would you rather have on this team? You let me know right now. Last nugget to get to from Dave McMenamin. Just came across a couple minutes ago. This is why you subscribe. I'm looking at producer Sam to my right. He's working behind the scenes frantically. I hear the keyboard typing in my ear. You know why? He was putting this together. Kendrick Nunn, as expected, has elected to opt in for his contract with the Lakers for next year, sources tell ESPN. So that's kind of a thing where the Lakers didn't have a lot of power. Nunn didn't play last year, signed a decent contract for him, worth around $5 million, something in the neighborhood of that. Is going to opt in, and that gives the Lakers, if he does stay with this team, a nice little bench piece and scoring option. So that's all that we have cooked up for you today. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, and guess what? Tomorrow, we'll have another video for you, because that's what we do.